For our Soul Connection segment, I have asked Greg Halliday, the president and founder of Solle Naturals, to come and share with us more details on SolleClear SI and some of its benefits, specifically in supporting balanced immune function.
It's good to be here. Thanks, Erica. More wise words from Erica today. I love that. I love those two, Solflex PI, SolleClear SI. Those would be a good soulmate, SI and PI, and you just explained perfectly why. So I'm going to just try to show you a few. So SI, actually, there are two parts to that. That capsule comes from the core SolleClear blends, a blend that we call SolleClear. So think of what Eric was talking about as in terms of clearing out. It's about clearing out obstructions, anything that impedes flow of energy. And you can interpret that because of the herbs that are in there, clearing infection. She kind of explained the sequence of that. And so it has this entire blend from the yellow drink of our 4 signature drinks from Solle Excel. Half of that formula is the SolleClear blend. The other half is the Trimaca Vibrancy blend, which is the 3 different kinds. We actually have 4 different actual materials of the 3 different varieties of maca, and then the Kupuasu. That's one half of the formula. The other half is the SolleClear blend. And so, I'll give you the names as well, so you get a flavor for what is in what these herbs are, these key ingredients are. And I want to just say one other thing. In the capsule SolleClear SI, this particular blend that I mentioned comes from Solle Excel, is had in a double dose. So if you use the recommended dose on the bottle, know that you're actually getting a double dose of this blend. In addition, there are 3 components that are not in the drink that we added into the capsule. So the capsule is nothing more than a double dose of the SolleClear components from Excel, plus these 3 other ingredients, if that helps. So the first one is butcher's brew. Erica talked a little bit about blood and how important it is to keep it healthy. Butcher's brew, not only is it anti-inflammatory, it is a toner of blood vessels, and it clears things like fats and impediments in the bloodstream. That's kind of where it gets its name, butcher's brew, cleaning the fats out. Will clear things that have become hardened and things that impede the normal and balanced function of all the things that the blood has to do. In fact, so that's sort of the main fame of butcher's brew. But thrown in there, this is from Dr. Allison's training. I'm probably not going to pronounce this right. Maybe Lydia or Erica knows, but it's something called Ruscogenin, Ruscogenin. It is actually a chemical, one of the natural chemicals in butcher's brew that actually inhibits abnormal cell inflammation. So one of the factors, there are 2 factors involved with that in the blood, and it inhibits both. So there are several elements. Butcher's brew is much more than sort of just cleaning the cholesterol, which is where it has its fame, and a lot of herbalists like to use it that way. It's much more than that. It is much more complete and is a strong immune enhancer. Okay, so that's butcher's brew. The next one is eyebright. So there are 2 different herbs that are in here because of what they do generally, systemically in the body, but with particular attention to the eyes. Why? Because, again, returning to the health of blood vessels and how important a healthy circulation is, that directly seems to affect the eyes even more than anything else. And so eyebright and bilberry is the other one. Those are 2 other ingredients in this blend that are in the capsule that, again, are toners, tonics to blood vessels, especially these small little capillaries that you find in extremities of the body and in the eyes. In addition, it is anti-inflammatory as well. It is mucus clearing, mucus membrane balancing. Again, I always think of the mucus sort of coats everything, things that need to get in, need to be able to pass through, but things that the body wants to catch and deal with a healthy immune system, are caught and dealt with. So eyebright helps manage that balance as well. Now, there are 3 herbs that are specifically there for the lungs. And before I mention those 3, I want to mention the 4th, that there is actually one other for your blood, and that's celery. Celery seed is actually in here as well. Though it does much more, it was included again to clarify all things to do with circulation and bloodstream. So you have really those 3 herbs for blood. The 3 for the lungs, they're not just lungs, they also are upper respiratory as well, but at particular attention, these first 3 to throat and below and into the lungs: fennel, mullein, and fenugreek. So what is fennel known for? Preventing clotting of blood, decreases in blood pressure, promoting healthier circulation, taking down inflammation, calming unproductive coughs. These are just a few things. Mullein, a little more deep and profound, clearing out the lungs, a very good natural expectorant, so that it is productive in clearing out what the mucus is trapping. So again, thinking of infections and other things, not just in lungs, ear infections, anywhere that inflammation and infection exists, mullein has been used for that as well. Fenugreek, aside from what we've talked about in aiding in healthy mucus and lung production, also helps with circulation, lowering blood pressure, lowering blood sugar that is out of balance, that is too high. Not all people know this. Dr. Allison reminded us that growth hormone, and people will actually find that and inject and do it really, I would say, artificially altering it. Fenugreek actually boosts our natural growth hormone and works right with hypothalamus and pituitary. Allergies and those immune reactions and that relation between digestive and immune are greatly balanced by fenugreek. So you've got these great lung healing products as well. So that's a little bit. Now there's one other one. It's in here and I don't mention it much, but there's a tree called pagoda tree in Japan. The flowers of that tree happen to be extremely high in quercetin. So you can get quercetin a lot of places. A number of Solle products have quercetin in them, but this flower is a particularly rich source. Not only does it help oxidation, it helps has all sorts of clarifying effects on the blood, but it also does reduce congestion. So quercetin is another ingredient, and we mentioned quercetin like we mentioned curcumin and sulfix PI, but really the curcumin is from turmeric, the quercetin is from pagoda tree, Japanese pagoda tree flower. Okay, so those are the components that are in the Excel. All of those are in SolleClear, but they're doubled in the SolleClear SI. And in that capsule, since we named it SolleClear SI, we added those 2 letters to the blend that comes from Excel. Eric has already kind of alluded to it, but sinus and immune are the meaning of those 2 letters, sinus, immune, SolleClear, sinus, immune. So an extra emphasis on that. So why? Well, when you look at the 3 additional ingredients that we added, I think that becomes clear. The first one is horseradish. Horseradish is really an incredible herb. I mean, it's a root, right? That does so much balancing, but we included it in this formula because what it does is it thins mucus. So often mucus is too thick. It's either too thick or too thin in most people, but in most cases, we imbalance on the side of too thick, plugged up, and then we try to take drugs that force a change there. That is just a vicious cycle. However, when we just take nutrition instead of the drug approach, horseradish in particular, we can see a world of difference. And I can attest to that because this was an area that I really suffered from. and don't. Very, very rarely does it become a nuisance to me anymore if I'm really not paying attention and not taking care of myself. So what does horseradish do? It actually thins the mucus and improves a natural flow, loosens it when it's become hardened. It boosts both through that and other components that it has. It boosts immunity. So the one interesting study was that people with a cold who took horseradish had the cold for almost half the time. The actual number was 40% faster recovery. So we're talking, almost, half the suffering that you would without, but by something so simple as just adding horseradish to the diet. Now, there's another interesting study. I don't know why. I want to know why it was conceived this way, because they looked at inflammation of the sinus, sinusitis, and bronchitis, and they also looked at UTIs using horseradish. It was a huge study. We're talking over 1,600 people were in this study. And what they found was that they compared simply using horseradish, so eating horseradish every day. I'm not quite sure what the amounts were. You could probably read them in the study, to someone taking antibiotics. And what they found, and antibiotics known to help quite significantly all these situations. And what they found is they got similar results with the horseradish and none of the side effects, much safer. We all know what side effects come from antibiotics. So this is a very large study that kind of illustrated why horseradish and why certain herbs can do exactly what Eric is saying. They work with the immune system in a balanced way, and it's just more effective. And so those imbalances are shorter duration and shorter severity often as well. So that's the first ingredient, horseradish. The next one is horseradish again, but it's Japanese horseradish. I guess in common terms, we call it wasabi. So that's Wasabia japonica would be its actual name. I'm spacing I was going to say clinical, but it's not clinical. Anyway, why is wasabi in there? Much more potent, this root. A very, very small amount is needed. And in fact, we put a very small amount, but we have a very highly concentrated extract that we use. Airflow, so respiration is greatly improved and blood flow is greatly improved. So the immune system, having what it has, if it's balanced, if it's also being fortified, flows much more quickly and efficiently when wasabi japonica is in the diet. There are several components in there. One of them, if I pronounce it right, is called allyl isothiocyanate. And I know, big old name doesn't mean a lot to me, but what I do know that it does, more air is in the sinus spaces, better oxygenation, the mucus flows better, and certain pathogens are killed. So it does kind of do all those things, sort of a triple threat. And that's why it's in the formula. Now, the last thing in the formula, I don't have to stare at my screen to talk to you about. It's the additional adaptogen. So because we don't have the macas from the Excel, remember we pulled out half the Excel formula, and then we've added horseradish and then Japanese horseradish. We wanted to add one of our, actually, I was anxiously awaiting the product to use this. This is from Brazil. It's called, its name sort of means the sum total. You could translate it that way. Suma, but it means in Portuguese, for everything. Its nickname is, it's like all adaptogens, incredibly balanced, lots and lots of different active components in it. And I think it got its fame because of what it does with immune performance, specifically immune performance. Now, so that being said, that is why we added it. Our Suma, I am trying to remember, I think it's a 10 times concentrate. I think it's a 10-to-1 powder that we use in here, just to give you an idea. And I'll just end with a little of what I think is a fun story. We had someone show up at our offices, not our warehouse. This is not where we sell product, but we keep a little product here. And we do have a few people who live locally like to come pick them up. Well, a lady heard that from someone. She couldn't even give us the name of the person who referred her. This was several years ago, right after we came out with SolleClear SI. And this poor customer service agent was trying to be helpful, trying to find out who's your mentor, how can I connect, because this is what we do. And person couldn't give any names. She says, I came here because I've had this dry hacking cough for years. I don't remember how many years, just years. Can't get rid of it. Sometimes it almost goes away, comes back, almost goes away. She was the poster child of what Eric's talking about. When things become chronic and we cannot get our immune system balanced. So since we were just talking about this new product, customer support agent, you gotta love that, says, hey, maybe you should try this product. So she buys a bottle of the SolleClear SI. 4 days later, something like that, 4 or 5, like a week later, we get this phone call. I need you guys to tell me what else is in that, because I didn't tell you this, but I hadn't had my monthly cycle in like 9 months. And my cycle came through X number of days after I started using this. Do you have a hormone balancer in there? Well, Suma, yeah, actually Suma will do that. And in fact, one of the other plants that I talked about, there is some hormone, I can't remember which one it is. It might be, I can't remember. But so there are a couple, but Suma's the biggie there. And so, yes, that whole relationship, because I'm thinking about what Erica was teaching about serotonin and different hormone levels that affect immunity. No wonder Suma is so good, because it's particularly strong in hormone balancing. So she asked this question. We said, no, there's nothing else added. But that's the Suma. And she says, oh yeah, by the way, in like 3 days, my cough went away. So and then hadn't heard. Now we did later find her mentor, just so you know, but never did that cough never did come back. So yeah, SolleClear SI is a powerful, powerful add-on. And I'll give it back to you. I've got to run, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. We always appreciate you and your wisdom.